Everafter Falls is a new addition to the farming life sim genre and is available to play across PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. My first impression was that it really does give off Stardew Valley vibes with the art style and the look of the gameplay, but I was happy to see that this one contains a combination of those classic elements along with a bunch of new ones that I have never seen before. And a huge thank you to Akupara Games for providing me with a review code. The story is quite unique and also just hilarious. So after you customize your character at the start of your game, you witness a cutscene where you immediately die. Or so you think. Turns out you are actually in a simulation and you wake up in Everafter Falls. Apparently you've done these simulations quite a few times, and just like in the past, you've lost your memory yet again. The residents in town are, of course, very understanding as they reintroduce themselves, tell you a bit about your past, and help you relearn things. It's pretty hilarious as some of these villagers have also done simulations, and they reference being a human and how weird it was, or mentioning something like the internet before they remember it doesn't actually exist in their world. At one point, you even reference Stardew Valley and an NPC is like, what? No, this isn't a farming game, this is real life. This story just fits in so well, it helps explain a lot, and it just works really well with the game. Other than that, there are some ancient ruins that you'll work your way through as you unlock them that leads to some other interesting discoveries. But all in all, it's more so one of those games where you kind of just go at your own pace rather than strongly focusing on the story. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of the same classic farming life sim elements in this game. However, there's also some new ones as well. It makes for a sort of classic game that we all love, but without that kind of repetitive, same kind of feel that others give off. In Everafter Falls, you'll have your own farm with quite a bit of space where you can grow crops, raise animals, and use machines to produce goods. In a unique sort of twist though, you have this pet follower that goes with you absolutely everywhere, and this adorable animal can actually help you with your farm chores. So instead of tilling the soil or watering the crops, you'll actually have your animal do this for you. So quite a unique twist to a pretty standard gameplay element. And as you would normally upgrade your tools, here you can upgrade your pet instead to allow them to queue up more tasks at once. So you can set your pet to work, and while they're watering your crops, you can go and feed your animals, chop trees, or do whatever you want. On your farm, you can also get quite the selection of animals with cows, chickens, llamas, and geese. And you also kind of get this choice when you go to purchase them, so you could get an older cow but pay a little bit more. That way you can start getting produce right away. There's also a ton of stuff to produce from machines, and you'll need to collect a lot of resources and make a lot of items in order to fulfill quests and progress in the game. And while this game certainly isn't difficult, it doesn't hold your hand either. So a lot of the time you'll kind of just need to play around and figure out on your own how you'll need to make certain items, or just Google it like I did. There is a really epic museum in this game, and the collections are set out in a way that really made me want to complete them. You can see every item that you can donate, and there's a little collection for each category where you get a reward for completing it. Another really cool thing here is that there's actually a fish tank set up in town where you can donate your fish to, and as you keep donating them, the tank fills up and it ends up looking really cool. So just kind of another sort of unique twist on a classic element. The mines that you have in this game sort of also work as the story progression. It's set out in a similar way to Binding of Isaac, where you'll go from room to room and you'll need to defeat the monsters before you progress. However, you do only need to progress through a room once before it stays unlocked. The idea of these mines is to simply find your way to the end room where you defeat a boss. And in total there are 4 mine/dungeons to complete. At the start, combat here can be actually pretty tricky. I did find myself dying quite often, and as you die, you will have to pay a small fee as a result, but it's not too bad. As you progress, there are a ton of upgrades that you can collect that not only make combat easier, but can make you so OP that you just breeze through these mines. Things such as your pet being able to damage enemies and automatically heal you. You can get more health, more damage, and more luck, You can also get yourself a drone that can also do damage, heal you, and store more items for you as well. So your effort is definitely paid off here. You can get these upgrades by completing museum collections, setting fairies free, completing quests, and a bunch of other things. So you basically get to pick a card from a stack and that gives you an upgrade. Pretty cool. Onto the fairies, which I just mentioned, which are these little beings that you can collect throughout your game. You basically make an offering at one of their shrines and the value of the offering will determine the odds of a fairy showing up the next day. So if you collect these fairies, they can be used to automatically collect resources for you each day. And you can use those upgrade cards here as well to increase the number of fairies that you can use at any one time, or increase the amount of resources these fairies will get for you every day. Another thing I wanted to mention here that I absolutely love about this game, you have a bedtime that you do in most other farming games, but here there's these things called spooklets that will basically chase after you after midnight, and once they catch you, they will plop you into bed because they basically want you to get a good night's rest. It's freaking adorable and it's absolutely hilarious to try and run away from these ghosts. Onto the town itself, which is a pretty decent size with lots of shops, homes, and areas to explore. There's several shops where you can buy a ton of stuff like recipes, furniture, resources, animals, and more. And stock for some of these shops can change every single day, so there's quite a lot of stuff to choose from. One thing I didn't really like here is just the pricing of some of these products. For example, you could buy a bookcase for like 300 coins, but then if you want some wallpaper, it's like 50,000 coins. I never actually got to the point where I could afford to get wallpaper. So maybe a little adjustment there would have been awesome. The villagers in these towns are animals, as you can see here, and they each have really, really unique personalities. My absolute favorite is this frog who always speaks in third person and just does whatever the hell he wants, even if it annoys people, but he's also just super wholesome. It's so cute. There's a hippo who's like obsessed and is stalking an elephant, which leads to a whole bunch of drama that is so funny. There's also this really funny duck who runs the animal shop and has this massive phobia of simulations. Just a lot of different personalities here. As you do quests for these villages, you'll see some cutscenes where you'll learn some story or background stuff, and these can be either serious, heartwarming, or hilarious. So I think the characters here have been done really well. Unfortunately, there is no sort of relationship building, which I did feel was really missing here. I really got to love some of these villagers, and I would have really liked to have learned their interests and give them gifts every day. Fishing in this game is again done in a little bit of a different way with a fishing method that I haven't actually seen before, which is saying something. There's this kind of wheel where you have to time it properly so when the hook falls, it makes it to the middle. Not necessarily my favorite method, as I can see some people having a lot of trouble with this if they're bad with timing events, which I feel like is pretty common. Speaking of events, there are quite a few of these throughout the seasons that you can attend. I actually really enjoyed these events. Normally I find they get repetitive year after year, but I didn't get that here. So there's a duck racing event, there's a maze simulation, there's bug catching and more, and the prizes are so worth it. And normally I find these get repetitive year after year, but because of these really awesome prizes, I didn't feel that with this game. You can get machines that are really tough to make and lots of other incredibly useful things or expensive or rare furniture. So it just made it that I never ever wanted to miss an event, and it made it worth doing them year after year. While this game does have seasons, so there's seasonal crops and changing weather, there isn't actually any sort of calendar system here. Again, I would have loved to have had NPC birthdays in this game. I just really wanted to give my favorite villagers gifts because I love them so darn much. There are some upgradables that you can get for your farm, such as a weather balloon, upgrading barns and other useful things, and also a rocket where you can donate items to if you want to help your robot friend go to the moon. I will say for things like this, it can take a really long time just to get the materials to upgrade something quite simple, but at the same time it kind of gave you something to work towards in the long run, which meant that you were never out of things to do. So all in all, I really enjoyed this game. At the start, I was a little bit wary as I struggled to find things to do initially, but as the game opened up and I learned of how things worked, I just got so sucked in. Being able to really kind of upgrade your character with those cards, as well as collecting rings and necklaces that can also give you a huge boost, I was just so addicted. Some of the items you need to get to advance a quest can take you a really long time to get. For example, needing to collect sap for a potion while also needing to melt bars and maybe getting certain crops. It can keep you really occupied for a long time as you work towards making these things. And this is personally something I really like in these games. I just hate so much kind of skipping days as I don't really have anything to work towards. I think they've done a really great job of taking a game that has been made many times before, keeping to that classic system of farming animals, quests, and mining, but doing it in a way that is really unique and so much fun to learn. Please, can more farming games do this? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this review helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!